this is a really privileged group of people because you either lead a company or you lead an organization inside a company. And every single one of you here, you are often included in my morning meditation, which lasts about 30 to 40 minutes. I don't know if you knew that. And there's a reason why. There's an old way of thinking in the way business should be run. And what's really coming to light with this next generation is that it's not working. So let's not talk about you, but let's talk about the people that work for you. You have this word that I hate, employees. And it's these people that get hired to perform tasks. And then when I call this a privileged room, it's because you lead those people, you manage those people, and you're higher up on the food chain. In some ways, you have more opportunities than them because a lot of them are artists and they're basically paid to produce a task. But when you get into management, there's a lot more upside because someone that manages a $1 million company can grow to managing a $10 million company or a $100 million company or a $1 billion company. So there's so much upside in that. I think that there's a huge problem in the world that is only getting worse. Since the pandemic, there was this relief in the world when people got to basically work from home. And there was this restoration of work-life balance. And companies were forced to let their people work from home. And it actually triggered a spike in the real estate market because you had a lot of people that said, oh, if my future now includes me working from home, I want my home to look different. I need office space. I want it to look different. I want it to feel different. I want something bigger. I want dedicated space. Because I've learned that if I'm doing my office work from my bedroom instead of a dedicated office, that I have my spouse interrupting me or my kids interrupting me, and I have to find out how to do this work from home thing. Pandemic comes to an end. A lot of these people are called back to work, not all of them, some of them. And what has ensued from this whole thing is a mental health crisis. People are emotionally dumber than they have ever been because no one has taught them. And so people are succumbing to a world where anxiety is worse than it's ever been. Sadness has turned into debilitating depression for many people. And of course, we have suicide on the rise like never before. And this dilemma is playing out in the workforce. And so large corporations are like, we have budgets and we don't know where to put this money because all I have is a really unhappy workforce. And when I look at our company, and one of the things that I'm excited about is that we're always asking, how do we improve work-life balance? How do we improve our culture? And how do we create and promote opportunity? And I really, when I look into the future, I don't want to look 5 or 10 years down the road. I'm asking myself in 2023, how do we create the environment where retention is not a problem because people want to work here? And there's different initiatives that we're doing as a company that you're aware of. Superhuman will start April 8th. It's an option. No one has to participate in it. But it is designed along with CEO Bootcamp to say, let's help you develop skills that a company doesn't have to provide you. And part of that is because I think that one of the problems that's out there is you have owners, you have people that run companies, and you have employees. And there's this massive gap. If a business owner can figure out how to successfully run a company, then they're going to get rich. And they're going to get the majority of the reward because they're also taking on incredible risk. I know what it's like to cover payroll out of my own pocket. I know what it's like to sink millions of my own dollars into a company to get it off the ground. Those risks are massive, and I do agree that the majority of those rewards should follow the people that take those risks. But I actually think that in today's world, more than ever, employees are being left behind. And I don't feel good about it because I've built wealth. And at the rate that we're building the right kind of companies, I already know, like I look at how successful I am today and I look at where I'm going, and I think that there's this problem that is going to get worse where I think there's going to be a revolt that is going to be felt and is going to be building year over year for the next several years, that if companies can't figure out how to actually genuinely pull it together and stop widening the gap but bring it together, I just think that we're going to have these big problems. We went through the Great Resignation. Now we've got unemployment that is hitting at really striking levels. Since 2020, World Economic Forum says there's going to be 80 million lost jobs to AI by 2025. Senator Warren came out and said that we expect 2 more million jobs lost this year alone. We are in the craziest upheaval. And I had to do a training on Monday to our sales team to help them know how to have conversations with prospects that are like, banks are failing, the government changed the definition so we can't call it a recession, but we are in a recession. Like inflation is out of control. They're raising rates. And if you look at the real estate market going up 45% over 2 years, it has not come down. There's a really minor correction, like minor. And you look at not just the increase in value, but the increase of rates. Homes have doubled. Affordability, the cost of food, this is what you're feeling, but this is what your employees are feeling. And I just look at all that and I'm like, so where does this get solved? Does the government solve this? Obviously, I believe that it's every person's job and their family's job to like solve this. But I think that the heaviest responsibility should lie on a company. A culture where we say, if we're going to help provide for your livelihood, is it enough just to say it's an opportunity and there's pay? I think the world has run on that methodology for a long time. And regardless of what the world does, I'm just personally not okay with it. That's why we have a profit sharing plan that we rolled out last year. And tomorrow we will be handing out profit sharing checks. And if you understand the vision of what we are doing as a company, I know most of you do, some of you are new, but as you understand the profit sharing program, we're building something very, very different here. And rather than 401ks, like the profit share for management is designed over time to produce millions of dollars. And by the way, that's not me taking responsibility for your retirement, because I don't think that's enough money either. I'm hoping that everyone is smart and intelligent with their money and that we as a company are training people. All of our employees have access to Financial Genius. There's a lot of financial training resources. CEO Bootcamp is taking most of our management and giving them skills beyond their requirements, unless they're an executive director or a CEO. And Superhuman is one more initiative, fully optional, that says, I have people literally pay $500,000 for my mentorship, and most of my mentorship that they think they're gonna get is in a professional arena and in a financial arena because they're expecting results. But 95% of what I do with people is correcting their personal life because they have gaps, they have holes, there's things that they're not doing and they don't understand. And this is what I feel inspired to share with you today is you carry a huge burden. Every single one of you in this room, you're a rainmaker, you lead an organization, you make choices to try to inspire the troops in the team. You know that if you mismanage people 10% of the time, that the backlash will be felt a majority of the time. You have to manage drama amongst your people, everyone constantly asking for raises, balancing a lot of tough asks. That is a lot of pressure on every one of you, and everyone here feels it in a different way. Now, the reality is this is a team of A players, so I know that you know how to cope well with it, but a lot of other people wouldn't be able to cope as well. I'm also aware there's a couple of you in this room that definitely feel stretched. And so the message that I want to share is I want to share with you a little bit about the vision of the company because I really want you to understand where we're headed. And then a lot of this retreat is going to be professional training. But I feel called to take a couple of the segments, especially today and tomorrow, and share some alternative information. Because I believe, I would love our culture to create an opportunity for everyone here to not feel stretched, not feel busy. Listen, if you're that person that likes to work 60, 80 hours a week, honor yourself. If you're that person that is saying, I'm gonna try to figure out how to get it done in less time, and you can produce a result, frankly, I actually don't care how many hours you work. I only care about the result. We are a results culture, which is if you know how to get the result, then build a lifestyle that supports your ability to create the result. Does that make sense? I'm gonna pause for a moment. Is anything I'm sharing resonating at all, or are you connecting any dots? What are some of the things that you're hearing, agreeing with, or disagreeing with before I kind of launch into where we're headed today?
Just that last thought of being a results culture and building a lifestyle. I mean, one of the reasons I moved to Hawaii was to do exactly that. I learned in college, there was a semester where I was actually at UBSC and I was trying to get into BYU, but straight A's and I had to do it like 18 credits. I talked to an admissions counselor and I was like, I have to do this to get my grades up. And I put all my classes on a Tuesday and a Thursday, classes all day, back to back. I had Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and all the weekend to do whatever I wanted. I do my homework all on Wednesday. Even then I went snowboarding first. I went snowboarding on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I did my homework part of the rest of the day Wednesday, and I got straight A's and got into BYU. And I was like, there's something about that balance that just did it for me. It was easy. And I moved to Hawaii because I realized that like I wanted that kind of balance, and that was okay. That was good for me. That's what works for me, but I'm doing my best work.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for a second, because Dan is not going to be the CEO of Thatch very long. He's the interim until we get where we're trying to go, and we're cultivating options for what that looks like, because Dan is basically saying, this is my season to crunch and launch and finish getting this thing across the finish line. I look at Tim, and he's like, Tim is in total crunch mode. He's like, the startup phase is the hardest phase. And there's definitely a time to haul. And then there's a time to have your team structured and built out in a way where everything is optimized. And there's a time to rest. And then there's a time to haul, right? And A players are drawn to this. I want to go as hard as I can, and then I'm going to enjoy some of the fruits of my labor. And I want that for you. I want ultimately your life to be honored. And I don't want anyone to tell you how to do it. And at the end of the day, I don't care what your schedule looks like if you get to the result. And so I'm really concerned with our people. They're in my prayers every single day. I envision them and you every day. And I'm just asking myself, because I feel this burden on me. It's a healthy, beautiful burden. And the burden is, am I causing the solution in the problem of the world, the aftermath of the pandemic, to create a culture and environment where people have opportunity, where people can grow, where people see a real path forward? And when I say a real path forward, I know what it was like to be an employee. And if you don't see in 5 years how you can make some quantum leaps, that becomes really discouraging. When someone's like, oh yeah, 5 years from now, I'm probably gonna make the same amount of money with just maybe adjustments for inflation, cost of living. That's not exactly what you would call a really exciting life. Everyone gets that, right? That's when you don't attract A players. That's when people go numb. That's when they start putting out the minimum. They're hiding, they're hoping not to get caught. And they're in survival mode. And work becomes, for most people, 85% of people statistically, by the way, hate their job. They hate their work, and if they didn't have to, they wouldn't. And that's what I really want to solve for as best as possible. Because 2023 is our year of making sure that we have purged everyone who isn't an A player. And when Carson comes up after, he's going to give you strong definition. He'll actually give you our chart and basically our scorecard, and you're going to have an exact number and math to what is an A player and what is not, to make sure that you have some guidelines to know whether you have the right people on your team, because some of us have big bleeding hearts, and we're okay covering up someone's inadequacies and tolerating them when it actually hurts the entire organization. And so we are going to be leveling up everything. But what we're also going to do is we're going to offer things that companies in general just don't. Most companies, I think, are out there just saying, I gave you salary, I've given you a job description, just do your job and then do whatever you want with your life. But that doesn't work for me. It's too uncaring. It's so unempathetic. And the reality is, the best way to take care of our clients, our mission, the best way to serve people is to make sure that you take care of your first client. And do you know who our number one client is? It's our team. We live in a world where we are so good at not taking care of ourselves because we're too busy trying to take care of others. How many of you see and know that? And we think that that's a beautiful expression of love. But one of my concerns is, what are you doing for your self-care? What are you doing to take care of yourself? And do you feel balance? Are you trying to get to a work-life balance, or are you owning it in your life today? And so what I'm going to do this morning is I'm going to share with you some personal private thoughts on work-life balance. Some of you, by the way, in this room are really good at it. And frankly, some of you suck at it. And what I hope will happen is that you will adjust your standards, because I'm willing to I'm giving you some standards that are non-negotiables. 3 months from now, if you have people on your teams that are not A players by our definitions, you're gonna get fired because you're not an A player if you tolerate non-A players on your team. That's a new thing. Like some of that stuff is like, we get to conform to certain standards so that everything elevates. Like everyone gets that. But on the other hand, we're creating as much freedom and responsibility as possible. I'm gonna share with you, if Carson's okay with it, sometimes I open my mouth prematurely, I'm gonna do it right now. Some of you in this room are executive directors and CEOs, and some of you lead departments. If you lead a department, one of the things that I want you to become aware of is that sometime this year, there will be a transition in your compensation to pay you more money, but to pay you more like a CEO.